Donald Trump is working with Big Pharma to screw America, and you're going to squirm when you find out how. Comment below and share with your friends and family.
So there's some kind of grody stuff going on at the intersection of big business and pharmaceuticals. On the line with us is Eli Zupnick with Accountable.us, spokesperson for Accountable Pharma. Eli, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's great to be on.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Tell us about, I heard Donald Trump, day before yesterday, I think, doing a whole riff about how he was cutting drug prices. He was talking about this at the Republican convention. He talks about it during his rallies and things, and everybody's, cut those drug prices. I think, most people wouldn't know if he had actually cut drug prices. It's not like there's a scoreboard like the Dow Jones Industrial that we see on a regular basis. They may just know about their own pharmaceuticals. They may think that those are the exception rather than the rule. Who knows? But what's going on here?
Well, I think you set it up exactly right. This is an issue that Trump has been talking about for years. He started on the campaign talking about it. He mentions it every State of the Union. He talks about it. He tweets about it. He says that he's an enemy of Big Pharma and that he's been reducing drug prices and that Democrats would do the opposite. It's clearly something that's important for his brand, but the reality is that, as you noted, he has done absolutely nothing to actually reduce drug prices. Anyone who gets their prescription drugs knows this very well, and no amount of tweets are going to really make a difference in how they think about this. So that takes us to what has been happening this last month when Trump, he held a big press conference on July 24th, apparently realizing that he had spent 3 years not delivering on this big promise that he'd made, and he had a big conference and said that he was going to be signing executive orders to reduce the price of prescription drugs. He signed those orders. He signed 3 of them. One of them, which is the one that the pharmaceutical industry claimed to be most upset about, was one called an International Pricing Index, or other people call it a Most Favored Nations policy. I could go into the details, but the reality is they're not that important because it's not going to be implemented. But this one, Trump made a threat. He said that he was going to hold off on actually implementing it unless the pharmaceutical companies came back by August 24th with a proposal that would go even further, that would substantially reduce drug prices. This was widely seen as an empty threat. Most analysts who saw these executive orders correctly saw that they would almost certainly not be implemented in time for Trump's first term to end. So they were seen as an empty gesture. But as we know well, as you noted, as we've seen time and again from Trump, he cares more about the flash and the message and the press conference than he does about the actual implementation. So what happened next was really interesting, and that is that we saw the drug industry erupt in this faux outrage campaign. They pretended to be aggrieved. They pretended that this would actually hurt them. They put out a statement, their main lobbying arm, Pharma, put out a statement saying that it was socialist. Drug company executives had been planning to go to the White House. They canceled their visit. The National Association of Manufacturers, a drug industry ally, began running TV ads saying that Trump was hurting the innovation of the ability of drug companies to innovate. Trump then responded, as you've seen, as folks have seen, saying things like, drug companies are attacking me, so you know that I'm on your side. I've been reducing drug prices. He created exactly the spectacle that he hoped to create. He got great headlines. He looked like he was fighting Big Pharma. Big Pharma was playing their part in the game perfectly. Now, if you fast forward to a month later, August 24th, the day that he said he would be delivering on this threat if Pharma didn't come through with their response, we heard absolutely nothing. Crickets. Reporters wrote about trying to reach the HHS and see what was going on. They didn't hear anything, nothing. One thing that we did hear in the interim was drug company CEOs were telling their shareholders on their earnings calls in August that they had nothing to worry about, that they, despite what they may hear in the news, they're not expecting any impact from these executive orders. The Eli Lilly CEO told his shareholders that the most likely scenario is that they don't even take force prior to a new term. So these drug company executives were being honest with their shareholders, but playing the game with the public in order to make it seem like there was this big fight happening.
That's mind-boggling.
2 days later, this is classic Trump. So after August 24th, when people started to note that he had made this threat, he said on midnight on August 24th, we're going to be delivering on this promise to reduce drug prices. In the interim, he had been tweeting as if he already signed this executive order, saying that drug prices were coming down 50, 60, 70%, which would be untrue if this were actually implemented, and was double untrue because he never even signed it. People hadn't even seen the text of this executive order, which is unprecedented. Usually when an executive order is signed or announced, it goes into the Federal Register. That hadn't happened. It was a hidden executive order. In the hopes he claimed that pharma would deliver something more, but we know that's not true. So 2 days after the deadline, we finally hear about this counter proposal that had been discussed, and it turns out to, not shockingly, deliver nothing close to the savings that Trump was promising. It would be less than what analysts expect from an executive order, even if an executive order were ever implemented. It would essentially kill off actual international pricing index policies, which are not bad policies. They just aren't going to happen under President Trump. And one thing that was particularly interesting in Pharma's response was they put in writing in their memo to him that they said even though the impact would be less, they said it would come before the election and it could happen faster than a rule could come. So clearly implying to Trump, or trying to tease to him, that he could show some kind of results pre-election if he went their way, which wouldn't actually hurt the bottom line, rather than go his way, which they think would hurt their bottom line just a little bit more. So that's where we stand. There's been no real response from the White House. Just a little while ago, Trump, before he got on the airplane, was asked about this by a reporter, and he said he's meeting with the drug companies this week. We'll believe it when we see it. We don't know if that's actually going to happen. But as of now, Trump is still out there tweeting and saying that he has reduced prices with this executive order, that nobody's seen, that he put a threat out into the world that the pharmaceutical industry called, and they called bluff. And right now, nobody's seeing any lower drug prices because of it.
Yeah, or your $110 drug just became a $109.20 drug. This is pretty remarkable. We're talking with Eli Zupnick of Accountable.us. Eli, we just have a minute left till we hit a hard break here. Is there any pushback to this? I mean, obviously your group is pointing this out, but are you seeing other politicians pushing back on these lies and this BS coming out of the Trump administration?
Not as much as there should be, and I think that's a product of Trump's regular playbook of just throwing so many things out there that it's hard to keep up and hard to respond to everything. But people should be mad about this. They should be see this as as just another broken promise that it is. I mean, he is telling them that he has reduced their prices. He is lying to them. He is saying that he is threatening the pharmaceutical industry and pretending to have this big fight over an executive order when it's just not true. And meanwhile, like always under President Trump, the people who are paying the price are patients who are not seeing lower drug costs, who are continuing to see their prices go up. The pharmaceutical industry makes more and more profit. They push some of that to Trump, and they're happy and patients are not.